Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joy and today in this lecture we will be discussing about the withdrawal of general consent to CBI by certain states. So this has become an important current affair and we will discuss this issue in detail in this lecture. Let us first understand what is the current affair. So two states, Andhra Pradesh as well as West Bengal. So the governments of Andhra Pradesh as well as West Bengal recently withdrew the general consent to the CBI. So it is necessary that states give their consent for the CBI to investigate cases in their respective states. We will come to the details of it later in this lecture. So there is a requirement of general consent and it has to be provided by the state governments. So recently Andhra Pradesh government as well as West Bengal government withdrew their general consent to the CBI for investigating cases in their respective states. So this is the current affair and we will be analyzing this in detail. Now, what are the reasons stated by these two states? So, while withdrawing the general consent, the state governments had provided certain reasons. First one is that they said they have lost the faith in the CBI because of the internal turmoil going on inside the CBI. So, we have seen there is an internal turmoil going on inside the CBI among the top officers. Secondly, the states also said that the central government is using the CBI in an unfair manner in order to target the opposition parties. In the state governments, the Andhra Pradesh as well as the West Bengal state governments are ruled by the opposition parties of the central government. So they also said the central government is using CBI as an unfair means in order to target the opposition parties in these states. Now, what is the argument of the central government? The center argues that there is no sovereignty for any state in the matter of corruption. So, CBI basically investigates cases of corruption. So, the central government argued that there is no sovereignty for any state government in matter of corruption. Now let us understand what is meant by a general consent. So the CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation, is governed by the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. And under the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, it is necessary that the consent of a state government is mandatory for conducting investigation in that particular state. So, the act by which CBI was created mandates that the consent of state government is important. And there are two kinds of consent. One is the general consent and the second one is the case-specific consent. Now, what is the procedure? The central government through notification can ask the CBI to investigate against the central government employees like income tax violations or conspiracy against the nation, spying, etc. Such cases can be investigated by the CBI on a notification provided by the central government. So, central government has to provide the notification and the law and order is a state subject. So, police comes under the state subject and because it is a state subject, the state needs to give consent for the investigation. So normally all the states give a general consent to CBI for these investigations. So what is general consent? General consent means a consent which is given to the CBI in order to seamlessly conduct its investigation into the cases of corruption against central government employees in the concerned state. So there will be central government employees working in a particular state. So any case or any investigation against this employees of the central government working in a particular state requires a general consent of the state government to conduct the investigation. And normally the state governments give the consent. For example, let us take a state, Maharashtra. Suppose the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI, wanted to investigate a bribery case against an officer who works in Maharashtra. But he is a central government officer. But he works in the state of Maharashtra. Now what the CBI has to do? CBI will have to apply for the consent with the state government, that is with the Maharashtra government, before registering the case against the particular officer. So after registering for consent with the state normally gives the consent and after state provides the consent, the CBI can inquire into the charges against that particular officer. He is a central government officer working in the state of Maharashtra. Now coming to the central government notification. So without a central government notification, CBI cannot investigate any case registered by the state government against state government employees or institutions. Suppose a state has registered a complaint and the state government wants to investigate the case by the CBI. So if CBI has to introspect or investigate the case, it has to get, that is the state government has to get a notification from the central government. And how does this happen? If the state government wants the CBI to inquire a particular case, the government will have to request the CBI. This request is for permission to introspect or investigate a particular case, and this request will be followed by a central notification to the CBI. So the central government will have to notify this to the CBI that the CBI can take up the investigation against the particular officer or against the case which is registered with the central. Now what is the role of High Court or Supreme Court? If the High Court or Supreme Court rules that a particular case should be investigated by the CBI, two things are clear. One is that the state government has to provide the consent. So consent must be given in case if the High Court or Supreme Court asks the CBI to investigate a particular case. And secondly, the central government will have to notify also. So a state government will provide the consent and central government will provide the notification if it is ruled out by a Supreme Court or by a High Court. Now, what does withdrawal of consent means? Suppose a state government has withdrawn the general consent to the CBI to investigate a case. So what will happen? The CBI will not be able to register any fresh case involving a central government official or a private person without getting a consent from the state. So if the general consent is withdrawn by a particular state, the CBI will have to get a case specific consent from the state government in order to investigate a particular case in that particular state. So it is clear from this that the CBI does not only require general consent but also require a case specific consent from the states. So withdrawal of general consent by a state means that the CBI officers, the police officers, does not have any power as a police officer or as a investigating officer in a state which has withdrawn the general consent for the CBI to investigate a case. So we have learned that two states, West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh, has recently withdrawn the general consent. So it is not only these two states but in the past several other states have withdrawn the general consent. The states include Sikkim, Nagaland, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, etc. So this is not for the first time. So what follows withdrawal of a general consent? What happens after a state withdraws the general consent? So Section 6 of the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946, which has established the CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation. So the general consent has been withdrawn by the two states, that is Andhra Pradesh as well as West Bengal, under Section 6 of the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946. So what is Section 6? Section 6 of the Act bars any member of the Delhi Special Police Establishment to exercise powers and jurisdiction in any area in a state without the consent of the government of the state. That means the CBI officers cannot conduct an investigation in any area of a state which has withdrawn the general consent to the CBI. Now let us see what is Section 5 of the same Act. So Section 5 of this Act is in contrary to the Section 6. Section 5 of the Act gives powers to the CBI over all areas in the country. So CBI is a Central Bureau of Investigation and therefore Section 5 of the Act provides CBI with powers over all the territories in the country. Now the two states, Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal, has used Section 6 in order to withdraw their general consent. Now what is the impact or implication? The CBI cannot register any fresh cases. We have already learned. So fresh cases cannot be registered by the CBI and for that it will require a case specific consent. But what about old cases that is already registered? The CBI can investigate the old cases which was registered before the general consent was withdrawn. So when the general consent existed, CBI might have registered some old cases that can be continued to be investigated. Secondly, cases registered anywhere else in the country except these two states, but people involving in the case from these two states can be investigated. That means, suppose a case is registered in another state, Tamil Nadu for example. Suppose the case is registered in Tamil Nadu, but this case involves people from the states like Andhra Pradesh or West Bengal, where there is no general consent for CBI investigation. But the CBI can take up the cases because it is registered in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has given general consent. It has not withdrawn the general consent. So, cases registered anywhere else in the country but involving people from the states which has withdrawn the general consent, that also can be investigated by the CBI. Now the third ambiguity is regarding the search. Whether the CBI can conduct a search in connection with an old case without the consent of the state government. That is the next question. The CBI can get a search warrant from a local court in the state and conduct searches. So for searches, it has to get a search warrant from the local courts. Now let us see what happens with fresh cases. We have already learned that the CBI cannot register a fresh case in the states where the general consent has been withdrawn. So what can the CBI do? What is the other alternative that is available with the CBI? The CBI could still file cases in Delhi and continue to probe people inside the two states. So we have learned that if CBI can register a case in any other state which has a general consent for the CBI, it can investigate the case and bring in people from the states which has withdrawn the general consent. So now the option for CBI, if it wants to file a fresh case within the jurisdiction of Andhra Pradesh and Bengal, the option is that CBI can file it in Delhi and continue to probe the people inside the two states, that is Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal. Now, in order to substantiate this point, the Delhi High Court has come up with a judgment recently saying that the CBI can probe anyone in a state that has withdrawn general consent if the case is not registered in that state. So, the CBI can register the case anywhere else in the country and probe the people from these two states if it wants to conduct an investigation. This order by the Delhi High Court was given with regard to a case of corruption in Chhattisgarh. So it is a wrong assumption of the state government that withdrawal of the general consent will protect them from CBI investigation. So there are other loopholes for the CBI to investigate cases in states which has withdrawn the general consent. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page, and for any queries related to your UPSC preparations, you can get in touch with me on my Facebook page. Thank you, and I wish you all a very good day.